Hey gang, what is going on? Welcome in. This is episode 168 of Byte That's weekly wrestling podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy and augmented schedule to check out the show. Remember, we are available every single Wednesday night, and this is a very historic week, not just in the world of wrestling, we do like to have a lot of fun here, talk about wrestling, but ultimately, we hope that Byte That is a platform for you guys to really just be able to laugh, have a good time. We know that not everybody has that wrestling fan, that wrestling friend that they can talk to about wrestling whenever it is they want. So we're hoping that this is a platform where we can sort of fill that slice of cake. If you have that really nice chocolate cake that you like, we give that to you every Wednesday. And if you want more cake, there's actually a way you can support it so it happens. Head on over to patreon.com/ByteThat. You get early access. You get raw and uncut video version of the podcast so you can see us maybe mess up. Maybe we say something that we regret, but it's there anyway.
Disclaimer,
it's all about having
though,
a good time.
There's no actual cake yet, but...
No. Okay, very important. It would actually be impossible in a digital platform, although that could change eventually. My name is Juan Villas. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Joining me, Ryan McNulty from Boston, Mass. No, Keith is not here. Now, okay, before anybody panics, it is not because of the elections. We're not going to go about, the controversial things there.
I wouldn't be here if that was the case. So,
America
is still here,
show.
folks.
Exactly. We're alive. We're breathing.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico's still part of the U.S.
Yep.
So how was this week for you? We're in Puerto Rico, for the record. Even though we can have some say in the primaries, we actually can't vote for the president, which is weird, right? So it's like we get sometimes president-elects or candidates coming down here talking to us, but ultimately we don't actually get to vote for the next president. You guys do. How is that during that week? Is it heavy with people like skirmishing the streets, getting people to persuade to vote for a certain candidate? How is that?
See, in Massachusetts, it's not like as big as it is in other things. Like, because the way that our election system works is it really comes down to a lot of like battleground states, things, states that can go either way. Massachusetts always goes Democrat every single time. I did vote. I mainly voted because there's a lot of important like questions for the state laws and stuff. Like, apparently, hey, now I guess marijuana is legal here. So that is a thing that happened.
RVD is going to be hanging out with you.
I was about to say RVD might be doing more independent shows around here. So we'll have to see how that plays out. That'll be surely interesting. It's more about like the state representatives and things like that for me, because I'll be honest, I wasn't too enthused about either political candidate. We don't like to go into politics here too much, but just kind of talking about it in general. This was a WCW-like election, to put it in wrestling terms, because Donald Trump swerved everybody. Because, I was sure that Hillary was going to win just because of, how controversial Trump is, but hey, controversy creates cash, I guess. And
it does.
Donald Trump overcame the odds, whether you like him or not, and that's it's pretty wild. I did not expect that.
Yeah, it was unexpected. Same thing with the elections here in Puerto Rico, and more so because we can have that conversation of which was the right candidate, which was the corrupt one. Honestly, I'm just not a fan of how people get. Like even today, this morning, right? So we find out around 3 a.m. my time that Trump wins. And I've not been able to really browse social media, not because of Trump winning or losing. Just people get so negative about everything, attacking everybody. Like I'm seeing friends that have been friends for over 10 years, like unfriending each other, insulting each other. And I'm like, okay, regardless of the outcome, the best we can do is to just support each other as friends, as families, because the topic of politics brings out the worst in everybody, right? So that's why I like that there are platforms that just kind of go, okay, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you don't. That doesn't mean you have to tell me to F off. That doesn't mean you have to remove me from Facebook. And people taking time out of their very busy schedule to actually commenting and harassing people, it's dumb. So I'm hoping that everybody here that's listening, you had a time to really just calm down and we can move on with our lives. We can support each other. We can laugh. We can talk about wrestling and complain about that, because ultimately, as long as either candidate removed Raw from a 3-hour show to a 2-hour show, I was going to be like, fine. But they're not going to worry about that. So we got to still worry about that on a weekly basis. I can't handle that many conversations.
It's true.
I'm going to just pass out at the end.
We need to leave. We leave our heated conversations for things like 205 Live.
Exactly. Like, we got title switching.
We're talking about the real issues here.
Exactly, the real problems that are fake, but are real to us because we sit down and talk about them.
It's still real to us, damn it.
Oh my God, man. By the way, last week, anybody that didn't tune in, you got heated halfway during the podcast, and I was not ready for that. I kind of liked it, though.
Well, it's just, the personal standpoint of, I'm kind of at critical mass with the amount of content I can consume from WWE, and you know what? The additional content is obviously there for everyone else. I just think it's going a little too far, and maybe they're spending too much on the network for what they're getting back.
I still kind of disagree with some of the things, but let's wait and see what happens with Survivor Series. I know I tend to say that, but because we have a match where the Cruiserweight Division may be moving, which is just weird to even think about, considering all the buildup, all this time, all of a sudden they're completely switching all that. But whatever. The first thing we want to get to is just sort of the overall feedback about what happened with Raw, how we're feeling about SmackDown, and I'm looking up the polls right now because I forgot to put them up. And with Raw, Byte That Cast is the Twitter account. The majority of the people voted Raw for 33%, 3 out of 4 stating it was good. Now, here's the interesting part. The percentages are from worst to best. 22%, 31, 33, and 14. So this is easily the most spread out a Raw poll has ever been for us. It's either at the top or at the bottom, but here it's pretty much throughout the result. But with SmackDown, we do continue to see the trend where people definitely enjoy the show more, with 59% giving it 3 out of 4, saying it was good, and then 31% saying it was great. So both shows got 3 out of 4 this week. I kind of don't agree with the Raw portion. I don't know if maybe I was just feeling negative vibes on Raw. Just something felt a little bit disconnected for me where I didn't get, even though there was information, we got clarification about the teams. I wasn't feeling like this was a must-see show where I think SmackDown continues to be solid, even though there are things that I know we're going to get to that we're not necessarily in agreement with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a 3 for Raw it's like these are kind of weighted scores or something, because like a 3 for Raw was like, oh, I got through it and I didn't hate myself. That's at this point, that's what you give Raw a 3. And then like a SmackDown 3 is like, damn, that was a pretty good show, but it didn't like absolutely blow me away.
And like the presidential elections, it's all fine, right? It's just a matter of what we're hoping to get out of it. I kind of feel like Raw almost felt like a parody of the show where, I brought it up so many times now with Kevin Owens and Jericho, where I feel like they're so afraid to be a serious show. I don't know if it's because it's Monday night. This is not because it's election week, because this is an ongoing complaint I have about the show. They're afraid to be serious. With the exception of Brock Lesnar, everything else feels like I gotta put something in there that will make people laugh or will make people smirk. I can't be too serious because I'm going to lose the crowd.
Is this something recent for you or been going on a while?
I think it's been going on for a little while. I think that now that the Cruiserweight Division, funnily enough, that I'm going to say this now, feels like it's just a standard part of the show. I sat down on Monday and I saw everything and I just said to myself, they're afraid. It's not that it's a bad show. They're just afraid of losing people during all of it. If you look at the Cruiserweight matches compared to the CWC, I know you can't really talk about that too much, but in all honesty, it feels like they're afraid. They're afraid to even have a single submission move in the middle of a match. It's got to be flip. Like, somebody, for the love of God, you better be flipping. Otherwise, people are going to be flipping the channel. Yeah. It's always in panic mode. With Kevin Owens, he's the champion. Make him say funny stuff. Braun Strowman, okay, he can't continue to be by himself. Put him in there with Kevin Owens and Jericho. I enjoyed that. But that's the whole vibe I get from Raw.
I mean, this could
Desperation.
the humor thing could spawn from just the success of the New Day, because now Jericho is kind of a comedy character in a lot of ways, and Kevin Owens is playing off of him, and then you have Enzo and Cass kind of have a comedy side to him. So there's like 3 like major comedy acts now going on Raw. So that it could just be, that's what's working for them. So they want to just, classic WWE, if they find a little success with it, they want to run it into the ground. I don't feel like it's beating me over the head quite yet with just being too silly all the time. And I actually, a lot of times the comedy is what I appreciate most about Raw, because some of the ultra serious stuff can sometimes just come off as really lame. But no, I think going into about like cruiserweights and matches in general it's like this ever-growing, evolving problem of we are getting, like, our attention spans are getting lower, and they feel like a rest hold now just kills a match immediately, where it's like, I feel like on a pay-per-view, you can do that. You can take the time because people are there really for the matches.
Yeah, you can take the risk.
Because they are buying into the matches more in a pay-per-view, you can actually build a story. Plus time. Time is a huge thing. You get a lot more time. So on Raw, it's like you're trying to do a million things at once. You're trying never to let there be a lull in the crowd. And sometimes the match will actually suffer even more from that. They're just trying to do too much at once, and it's just not going to happen.
And ultimately, even though I'm complaining about some of the jokey stuff, when you look at the Raw team, we finally have the 2 finalized teams. So we'll get to the Raw one first. I think that this episode, instead of maybe talking about Raw and then SmackDown, it's all going to be sort of like interlaced because it's Survivor Series that we're talking about. It's just over a week away. So for Team Raw, we have Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, and then the last guy who, there were some reports about it being Sami Zayn. We talked about that last week. It's not. It's actually Seth Rollins. How are you feeling about that team where we already knew 4 out of the 5, and now we have the solidified team for the match?
The Raw team makes total sense to me, and I'm completely good with it. Seth Rollins is the guy you want in there if you're really doing the best of the best versus the best of the best. Maybe I should have just said the best versus the best.
The best that runs the place against the best of the best.
Way too many times. But you want Seth Rollins in there.
Around.
If it's the best of the best, you need Seth Rollins. So good decision. If it's Sami Zayn and you throw Rollins in another match, it doesn't feel like this is the pinnacle of the 2 main event teams going at each other. As much as I like Sami Zayn,
I gotta agree. I think Seth Rollins is the best pick. Sami, he's got his own spot with Dolph Ziggler in the IC title match. We'll get to in a little bit. But with Rollins, it makes a lot of sense. I like that Braun Strowman is personally my favorite guy in the match, because it seems like with Randy and Bray Wyatt and the other team for Team SmackDown Live, you can get a lot of interaction. Plus, you have, I know you're a big fan of this probably, James Ellsworth as the official SmackDown Live mascot. So there's a lot of dynamics that are Rumble-esque. You know how ultimately every year people are waiting for the Rumble, the Royal Rumble, to see what kind of interactions are going to happen between former rivalries or something. But here you have James Ellsworth and Braun Strowman. They can tease something there. Then you have the Wyatt family. And then you have past feuds that are also in there somewhere with AJ and Jericho. So I'm really getting a very positive vibe about the atmosphere that this match is going to have. I don't think we should worry about any boring chants or things that are similar.
No, I mean, there's a ton of intrigue with a lot of the matchups. And like I said, you have top tier guys going against top tier guys. I mean, this is one of the most like highly, I can't even word it right, but it has it has more star power than
stacked.
like
it's stacked.
It's stacked. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't typically see a match with this much star power unless it's an elimination chamber. And even those, as of recently, have not been that stacked.
Now, we switch to the other team, which was originally AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, Baron Corbin, Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton. I believe I did say last week that it was odd for me that Baron Corbin was in there. I don't know if anybody at WWE, obviously they didn't, but hypothetically, I'm going to make myself feel better by saying somebody listened and they said, hey, that's a good observation. So let's switch it. Let's look up another superstar, because SmackDown's all about giving the newcomers an opportunity. There's the Shane McMahon kid that battled, this newcomer, The Undertaker, at WrestleMania. He hasn't wrestled for a while. So Dana Bryan, of all people, and this is the part that I don't get. Dana Bryan always complains about Raw, where more is more, yet now Byron Saxton is also part of the SmackDown announce team. Personally, I don't really think.
Wait, you mean Tom
that
Phillips?
It felt too much. Oh, Todd.
Yeah, I was like,
Byron Saxton. They're two in the same. They're two in the same with Tom Phillips. I'm gonna miss more. Well, he's probably still gonna be in NXT and other things, so we're still gonna get some Corey Graves interaction out of that. But it was out of left field. I unfortunately read this before SmackDown actually aired, because I saw a picture on Twitter. Raw and SmackDown were taped because they were, overseas. And cool, but it feels like if you're going to put Shane McMahon somewhere, it should be like one match, right? It should be like a singles match. There's rumors about it that this is leading up to a WrestleMania match with maybe Brock Lesnar. I'm still not sure how to feel about that. Are you thrilled about this?
This to me just goes against everything that SmackDown is supposed to be about. It's more about giving opportunities to young guys and getting rid of the Attitude Era sentiment. I mean, I actually, shame on me, I missed Talking Smack this week. I totally forgot to watch it. But as I've been watching Talking Smack, Daniel Bryan's ripping on Raw all the time about using Attitude Era guys and, not giving opportunities to younger guys. And Corbin, I thought, was great for this team because he kind of mirrors Braun Strowman in this, the big guy, the up-and-coming guy who can really benefit from being placed in the main event. And instead, they pull him out for some half-baked feud with Kalisto, so that, which, by the way, I totally forgot was on the roster.
He was apparently actually injured. I thought the storyline took him out, but he's back.
All right, well, that makes a little bit more sense. But they put Shane McMahon in, and it's just like, he doesn't belong in this match at all. It doesn't work. It comes completely out of left field. I don't like it at all when it seemed like it was perfectly lined up, and they ruined it.
Were they maybe too afraid? This kind of goes with my Raw conversation, where they're afraid to take risks. When you look at it, it made sense, right? It was 1-to-1. You got Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin. The sizes aren't exactly the same, but they fill the same gap. But maybe they felt, we gotta add that sass, that spice. Shane McMahon, let's put him in there, because I don't doubt that there's going to be a fun dynamic here. I just don't get how, when you look at the Raw team, Raw's the show that we complain about how they're building things up with Stephanie and then Mick Foley, but that team looks solid. Whereas SmackDown kind of looks like you have Randy Orton in there with the Bray Wyatt thing, which is weird, and you have Shane McMahon. So ultimately, for me, you have 3 out of the 5 people. You have AJ, Dean, and Bray that feel like, yes, these are the guys. But
Orton,
then there's the wild card with Randy.
Orton feels fine.
I think he feels fine. It's just weird because it's still this whole thing of, to what extent is he going to hang out with the Wyatts? And because I think that hasn't been cleared up yet, I think I just feel a little weird about it. I'm still confused.
Yeah, it's just so hypocritical that Daniel Bryan is the one to announce it, where, he's all about giving all these opportunities, and you have so many other people on the roster that could fit that spot. What has Shane McMahon done wrestling-wise to deserve that? To deserve that over The Miz? To deserve that over Kane even? It makes no sense. And it's just a BS workaround to try and sell a little bit more tickets, add a little bit more intrigue to the match, instead of having younger talent benefit. Oh, maybe Baron Corbin has a breakout performance in this match and gets a little bit more legitimacy. Or you just have Shane McMahon in there so they can do a one-off WrestleMania big main event, instead of, and they're not doing enough to invest in their future. They're always going for the quick buck. I mean, Lesnar versus Goldberg, it's a quick buck type of match. And I'm not saying that you can't always do that. in this circumstance, it makes sense, especially if you're trying to continue this immortality aura of Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
But when the quick buck comes at the expense of, an investment in the future, that's where I have a problem.
Once again, I don't doubt it's going to be an enjoyable match. Maybe we get some explanation. I know Dana Bryan is going to be on Raw next Monday, and he did talk about that on Talking Smack. I only had some time to watch the Alexa Bliss reaction to basically the screw job finish that happened on SmackDown Live. Very good match, by the way. Although I know even that is a controversy where they built Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss as the SmackDown main event, yet they weren't actually the main event. But they're doing this
they said it on the show. It was the main event, and then wasn't.
They're doing the triple main event thing where they're just saying this is the main event. Whatever. It's whatever you make of it. No, the main event should be the last match. I don't care what you say. It should be the last match. I'm not talking to you, by the way, Ryan. I do care about what you say. I'm talking about
thank you
WWE. So thank you. I don't want anybody feeling bad. Any additional thoughts about the mascot for Team SmackDown? Because I do have a source. WWE legend Booker T actually said a little bit about James Ellsworth. I don't know if you read about this. Did you?
I did not.
Nice. Gotta get some scoop in here. So the source here is 411mania.com. I think it's interesting enough that I'll just quickly read all of it. It's not too long. This is from an interview, and Booker T said, it's old, referring to James Ellsworth. I'm tired of seeing Ellsworth. This kid has had a hell of a run, but send him back to the independents. I've seen this guy at a convention. I was appalled. Wow, by the way, that's strong. Yeah. But this guy's going to live this run for quite some time. He's probably getting a good price out there on the indie show. They're probably bringing him in as an attraction. But the thing is, me personally, I'm not a hater, but you must ride it for as long as you can. Look at Hornswoggle. He worked for WWE for 6 to 7 years. You can't hate people like that, but you wonder how James Ellsworth fit into the WWE mold. It just makes you wonder. There are many people in my company, Reality of Wrestling, just scratching at the door. So when I see Ellsworth, there's just gotta be a way, but you have to wait your turn, but it's definitely getting a little old. Are you on Booker's side?
I think Booker makes a lot of points while also getting that cheap plug in there. Why not, right? Getting his promotion over.
Yeah.
The Ellsworth thing. I said it like 3 weeks ago. He should be done after that title match, and then we don't see him until the Royal Rumble. And yeah, sure.
How much do you see happening as the mascot? Sorry to cut you off, but going directly to the result of what's happening now.
It'll be another way for him to get involved and mess with Ambrose and Dean. I mean, Ambrose and AJ. That was weird.
Yeah, Ambrose and Dean. Or
Ambrose and Dean. It's a hell of a tag team. Yeah, it's weird, and I don't like this whole mascot thing. I was digging the whole Natalia coach thing, but the mascot thing, they're really just, and to borrow from you on, they're shoehorning Ellsworth into this. And I think Ellsworth is really, like, we're going to see this guy till at least TLC, because I think he's going to be they're just going to keep him as a part of the Styles and Ambrose feud. So they're just going to keep dragging him. This is what a lot of people got
to think. This is what you can't forget. That even though we see him week to week, a lot of people, if you bought a ticket for SmackDown, say it's for February, right? You're going to want to go to SmackDown and you're going to want to cheer that guy who you haven't seen live, like in person before. So even if you're tired at the moment you go there, you're kind of like, Ellsworth, yeah, I got to see him live that one time. Okay, I'm good. So I think they'll just have him do this little run. And once he's traveled enough states where the steam has died down a little, they'll do the Colin Delaney thing, because he is the next Colin Delaney.
Well, didn't Colin Delaney just get the same fired? Thing.
I think he did, which would not surprise me for Ellsworth. Honestly, Booker T is right. He's going to make a lot of money. Kevin Thorne is still Kevin Thorne in the Indies, teaming up with Billy Gunn. It's the Ass and the Vampire. What kind of tag team is that?
Is that the legit name?
No, but I'm making it up right now because they actually are teaming up. It's kind of weird. He was coming out to...
could be Suck Ass, right?
Oh, my God.
There you go. There's a team name for you. So Ellsworth, yeah. I mean, there's a very good chance that they just sign this guy and he's like Santino version 2.0 and they use him for comedy acts and stuff. I don't think he's got the same charisma that Santino has. I mean, Santino, say what you will, that guy was fantastic.
He was great.
He was a great entertainer. You know, was he ever going to be world champion? Almost. And
yeah,
people
almost
freaking
was.
loved it.
Should have happened.
I don't think he can reach that same caliber and you can get that same longevity out of Ellsworth that you could Santino. But I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the dead horse until it's literally dust.
Now that we got that out of the way, this is the conversation that I'm not sure how you're feeling about it. I didn't want any reference until we got this. Unfortunately, Keith isn't here because I think that he would maybe have a contrasting opinion to whatever it is you're going to say now. The whole thing with Brian Kendrick versus Kalisto. This was out of left field. It didn't make sense to me just because there was no buildup. You spent, how long was it? From the draft till they actually debuted the Cruiserweight Division. It was over a month, right? At least over a month, if I'm not mistaken. And then, just because this is happening, you're putting the title on the line in the same show where you have Dolph Ziggler versus Sami Zayn. Gee, I wonder if because there's this 205 live show happening after SmackDown. Does that mean that maybe the Cruiserweight title is just going to shift? And it's not even just a title match. The fact that the stipulation is that if Kalisto wins, he gets the Cruiserweight title and the whole roster moves. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yep. I mean, Raw, they are pulling the plug on this division on Raw so fast. So fast. They didn't even give it, 2 months? I mean, it started in September, right?
Not nearly enough. It's somewhere around there.
Yeah, so a little...
Insane.
Yeah, a little over 2 months, and it looks like they're ready to just give up. And I know they're obviously starting the 205 Live on SmackDown. And you know what? Schedule-wise, it probably makes all of their Cruiserweights' lives a lot easier because they only have to show up to the SmackDown taping. So that makes it a lot easier for them. Because I know, all the other wrestlers only are doing either Raw or SmackDown so that you get 3 days off the way that the schedule works. So it does actually, it's probably because they want to do this show. It just makes more sense practically, for practical purposes that they're shifting it over. But just because that is the logical reason they're doing it doesn't mean that the perception that it just failed on Raw isn't what's going to be the perception of the majority of people watching. Because let's be honest, it's been less than stellar, the Cruiserweight division on Raw. It's been...
Ryan, you're being a little nice. It's not been good.
It's shit.
Thank you. And we love these guys.
This is probably the reset button they need. TJ Perkins with all your video game references. Whoa, man, it's time to reset.
What I believe happened was that, and number one, going back a little bit, I think the issue is that this shows WWE doesn't really think long term. Because this is a logistical nightmare. You spend months marketing something only to then say, hey, remember when we said this was the exclusive thing and my God, we're going to beat SmackDown because of it? No, just take it. It's just going to move on over because we have this show.
Everyone thought it should have been on SmackDown anyway.
Exactly. You have Daniel Bryan who commentated. You have Mauro Ranallo on SmackDown. It makes no sense for it to be a Raw. Fine, WWE. We'll give you the shot. You do one show, you notice the live audience doesn't necessarily react to it. You don't give the matches enough time on a 3-hour show. You treat them like a sideshow instead of a mainstay attraction. I wonder why, this didn't happen earlier. I'm just hoping that this is an opportunity for them to really undo the damage that they did, because I think that guys like Rich Swann, TJ Perkins, they're right now dealing with the stigma of you're the flippy guy. Cruiserweight division is about flippy guys. And they thought that the Cruiserweight Classic was so good that it was just going to immediately transition over to Raw. Raw doesn't have the scene writers. We don't have to be behind the scenes people to see how a product can be damaged. You look at, I always bring up my movie examples. The Fantastic Four movie was horrible. And when you look at the production side of it, it makes sense. You have a lot of people, picking and changing things. And ultimately, you get a product that you can tell everybody's hands was all over it. So having 205 Live is the best option for them. But please think far ahead just a little bit more than you probably don't with WWE.
I mean,
because I want to enjoy it.
Some things are just impossible to predict. And maybe... Like, you had to think that there was going to be a good portion of people who weren't going to be up to speed on the Cruiserweight Classic. So just throwing in a ton of random people on Raw that they're not used to seeing. We're used to people kind of trickling in. We're not used to seeing guy we don't know versus guy we don't know. It's usually, guy debuts against somebody we know, and you kind of have like a reference point to work off of. So starting a brand new division is pretty tricky, and especially... the fact that they've segregated it, it's like there is nothing, TJ Perkins doesn't interact with Roman Reigns. They're not tagging together, and maybe that's an issue. And maybe SmackDown will change that. They only have 2 hours, so you're going to have to group people up every once in a while to fit people on it. I'm assuming that the Cruiserweights are going to have matches on SmackDown, and then that can be like the lead-in for 205 Live. That seems like probably the best route to go.
And then how is that going to actually happen? Because now that sort of fixes the issue we talked about last week, where how do you have a thing on Raw, but then the talent is on after SmackDown? Okay, that's solved. But then after SmackDown, you have a show that is only about those guys. So I'm thinking maybe they do a dark match
and
with AJ and all that after.
Too.
Which is, it's just weird.
Are people going to stick around?
Yeah. I'm assuming, like I was saying just seconds before, that they'll do, okay, so we got a dark match, AJ versus Ambrose after that. So they're going to really extend this. Because otherwise, if you don't care about the Cruiserweights, what better first impression than just seeing a show start and you see people just walking out? It's going to be the worst. It
really should be taped before. I don't know why they would tape it at. Oh, it's because of main event or whatever the hell they tape?
Yeah, they have obligations.
Still do
plus
Superstars
SmackDown.
And main event. Can we just get rid of that shit? Seriously?
Well, because those are international obligations, as far as I know. That's the main audience for that. And also, whenever you're cleaning, whenever I'm vacuuming or doing some cleaning work around the house, I'll put on Superstars because whatever, it's just a match, and they're actually not too bad
to watch.
Yes. The thing is, if I just put something on Netflix, I like to be able to sit down and watch it. With wrestling, I can hear the commentators, and when they say
background.
when they say suplex, I get what a suplex looks like, and I know what's happening. So it's just a matter of being familiar with that stuff. But I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm hoping this is a success.
We didn't really touch on IC title going to Raw. What does that mean?
Oh my God! Can you imagine a scenario where you have the U.S. and the IC title on Raw? We go back to the main issue, and I don't mean to be all negative here, but I'm hoping that this leads to a title unification match at WrestleMania, which we're going to next year.
Woo!
So that's awesome. Can't get over that.
Yeah,
gonna get to touch your beer, Ryan.
With the roster the way it is now, you cut the roster in half, and then you try and have 2 mid-card titles on Raw. It is gonna be weird. And the way it looks, because Roman has the US, they're probably going to, at least until they unify, if they do, they're going to position the US as sort of the upper tier belt, and then the Intercontinental might be a little bit lower tier, which is sad because it felt like the IC title was finally getting some momentum, and I'm kind of fearing for its safety on Raw.
And SmackDown can use it. The Miz was a perfect example that title makes sense when you have somebody whose job is to make that as good as possible. So would the Cruiserweight, going back to that thing first for a quick second, would that title even be defended on SmackDown? Because it wouldn't make sense if you have a show about that. So then what? You have the women's, you have the WWE world, and then you have the tag title? So what do you have for other people? Do you introduce a title?
There's a very good chance that SmackDown just wins both.
Actually, true.
Yeah, because you're right. If the Intercontinental title goes to Raw, SmackDown's mid-card is struggling. It's already struggling. And then you have nothing for them to fight for. Yeah, the fact that 205 Live is getting its own show now makes me think it's way more likely that SmackDown just wins out and gets both titles because, with its own show, they don't have to worry about defending their Cruiserweight title in TV time on SmackDown anyway. They can if they want to, but because they don't have to, it should be fine.
Now, my closing thought, and I just kind of thought of this, it would be cool where in SmackDown, they never battle for the Cruiserweight title. But what they do is they have a number one contenders match, which then you see the actual title match on 205 Live, aside from a couple of showcase matches. Now that, I think, is a good transition where this guy wrestled and then he's wrestling again. Now that leads up to a guy maybe wrestling twice in front of the same audience. That doesn't always work. But to me, as somebody that I'm probably not going to watch 205 Live, that would be like a weekend show. That could be my new cleaning show.
There you go.
Superstars,
it's a
you can
more
get rid
relevant
of it.
at least.
Yeah, get rid of Superstars now. That would be cool, at least for me. Would it work for you?
I think that's a fantastic idea just to get people interested. I'm not saying you do it every week, but obviously the first show, you should probably do something like that. A number one contender match, lead into a title match on the first ever show. Just have little things like that to give people a reason to watch. I think that's super important, and they pretty much have to do that, I think.
And gang, if you don't have enough things to watch on SmackDown or Raw, we got 4 DVDs we can give you as part of our BT crate. We have a holiday wrestling crate that we're giving away to one lucky person. You have to be from the US, Canada, or Mexico, Tanner. All you got to do, it's super simple. Head on over to ByteThat.com. You hit the slider image, and then you get to find out what we have. We have DVDs including from places like Ring of Honor. You get a Brie Bella Funko Pop. You get an autographed Eugene 8x10 image. As I mentioned, you get DVDs featuring superstars such as El Generico. Rumors are still swirling around that he's possibly Sami Zayn. They feature AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens. So many badass, awesome guys. The club before they became the thing that they're on Raw. You can get to see like the real club with the Young Bucks and all that stuff. So you can enjoy that. I want to give a quick thank you to everybody that hung out with us during the Extra Live 24-hour stream this past Saturday. My wife, myself, and 2 of our friends, and you guys, Ryan and Keith, thanks a lot. Played games for 24 hours in a variety of different combinations, and we raised for Puerto Rico collectively $851 in 24 hours. That goes directly to the kids. That's insane. Huge. I was worried that we weren't going to raise too much, and then we got a $105 donation from Vector Gaming, for example.
Wow.
We got some insane donations. One of my friends got a $200 donation after receiving a $100 donation.
Holy crap. Yeah,
I can't believe it.
That's huge, and it's cool to know that it's for such a good cause. You can't go wrong with that. So yeah, I'm proud of you guys because 24-hour stream is
it's
nothing.
Insane. It's
nothing
insane
to sneeze at. That is a very long time to stay alert and play games, entertain, and help raise money. So props to you guys. It was a pleasure to even just be a part of it to help out.
Yeah, we played some Overwatch, had a really fun time. You can follow Press Pause TV on Twitch. That's where my wife and myself stream. We stream sometimes during the weekend whenever work allows me to do so. We do have a Byte That Twitch account, by the way. That is Byte That on Twitch. Funnily enough, which if you head on over to Patreon, we're less than $10 away from reaching our first goal, which is a 12-hour wrestling game marathon. So one marathon after the other. We have a chance to play games for 12 hours. Patron supporters get directly to help us choose the games that we will play. You guys can hang out with us and chat. Think of it like a 12-hour podcast. 12 hours of Keith. My God.
Can you
I don't know if we
handle
can do that.
Can you handle that? But yeah, not only are we
handle that even.
When we hit the goal, we'll be playing wrestling games. We'll be talking wrestling. So you can just come hang out and chat. Very casual environment. So that is a huge deal. First goal in our Patreon. We got plenty of other awesome goals, including our YouTube podcast going full video, including adding an extra audio feed where all of our extra content will go on, so audio listeners can get a lot of the same content that the YouTube listeners get. And for Patreon supporters this week, we would actually like to thank Peter D. So if you'd like a shout out like Peter, you can head over to patreon.com/Byte That.
For the BT Crate, that ends on November 7th. We always want to thank you guys for the love and the support. Stay tuned. At some point before the end of the year, there will be a Byte That. I don't want to just say channel update, because we do have the RSS feed on the YouTube channel, but more so a Byte That update about what we're going to be doing in 2017. We got some ideas that I think everybody's going to like. It may involve some changes. It may involve some fun stuff that's a little scary, maybe. But we're still going to talk wrestling above everything else, so stay tuned for all of that stuff. And this Friday, we have a new Play That, by the way, where we play WWF Smackdown. And last week, you probably got spoiled for that already, so nothing too surprising there.
Whoopsies.
Whoopsie. A little bit more about Survivor Series. Want to talk two more things, Ron?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Tag teams. There are a lot of them in one match in particular, 10-on-10 elimination match. I'm still trying to figure out how this is going to work. But for Team Raw, what matters is that things are just the worst. You got the Shining Stars in there. It is the worst team. Okay, the combination is the New Day, the Club, Cesaro and Sheamus, Enzo and Cass, Primo and Epico. On SmackDown, you got the tag champs, Heath Slater and Rhino, who did not win. You got Zack Ryder, you got Mojo Rawley, the Usos, Chad and Gable, a.k.a.
American
Alpha. Yeah, that's a throwback reference, by the way. And then Breezango, who I'm super happy is getting this opportunity.
You can thank the international tour for their win.
Yes.
Because they love Fandangoing over there.
What'd you think of it? You like the combination here?
It's going to be intriguing. Mostly the logistics of how it's even going to work. It kind of just paints a picture about the state of the tag team divisions in both, which I think have been a little lackluster. I feel better about SmackDown's tag division because Raw is kind of like
for sure
the New Day and everyone else, and Enzo and Cass haven't really flirted with the tag titles in a while, so they kind of seems obviously they're a strong team, but it still just feels kind of on the weak side. Obviously with SmackDown, it's like American Alpha, the Usos, Heath Slater and Rhino. It feels a lot better. So I got good feelings about the SmackDown team, but it's going to be a great matchup either way. Just with so many people, I hope it doesn't come down to, and it may have to anyway, the diva of old Survivor Series matches where if you liken it to a video game, everyone's HP gets lowered by 75%.
Oh, you know it'll happen.
So people are just getting pinned left and right. They're going down to power slams and stuff like that. So expect that as potential if they do it in the style that every single person is its own elimination. They might do it by teams though. So if one of the person on a tag team gets pinned, the entire tag team is out. That might be the way to go to speed the process up and maybe have the match last longer.
Maybe. Shining Stars and Breezango are going to be gone in 2 minutes into the match.
Yeah.
They will be gone.
Shining
no questions
Stars
asked about
don't
that.
have a prayer. They were lucky that they could buy their way into it with their timeshare.
Well, at least Heath Slater and Rhino are there. They're having a good time. So are the New Day. Not feeling too much else about that match. I think it's going to be a nothing match. It's going to be getting their finishing moves in. The Club may finally get some kind of a chance to shine, but aside from that, I'm not feeling anything too crazy about the last Survivor Series a match that I want to get to, because next week we'll go into more detail as we get to our predictions about the women's one, which does have the full team also assigned. But I want to get to Sami Zayn versus Dolph Ziggler, because as I mentioned last week, WWE did put out a graphic on their website, because I actually saw it before it was taken down, where Sami Zayn was part of the Raw team, but we're getting this match. And then there's speculation, this is probably going to become the new John Cena heel turn thing, whether Dolph Ziggler will use this opportunity to turn heel, to have a bad guy thing where, Sami Zayn is the underdog from the underground. I don't really see that, but at the same time, Ziggler's doing a whole lot of nothing as a babyface champion, so that could work.
Who would Ziggler feud with as a heel on SmackDown? I can't even think of anybody.
Who would Ziggler face as a babyface on SmackDown, for that matter?
I don't know. That's the problem. SmackDown is definitely the more entertaining show, but their roster, the thinness of their roster is beginning to really show, because as time goes on, feuds kind of get done and you start to run out of options. So people might be flipping a lot on SmackDown just to keep things fresh. I don't really see it happening right now. I really feel like this is going to be one of those respect matches where it's just going to be a nice barn burner where they're going to put it all on the line. Hopefully gets a good amount of time, because obviously this has potential to be a super fun match to watch. I'm at this point, after kind of us talking about earlier, I'm really feeling like they have to keep the Intercontinental title on SmackDown, but I don't think it'll take away from a fun match that this will be.
Do you think that this is maybe the fire that Sami really needs to be able to do something? Because ever since the draft, his character, he's been self-aware that he's doing nothing on Raw.
I really wish that it went, if Sami won, he could go to SmackDown with the Intercontinental title, because I really, really want Sami Zayn to be on SmackDown. They need more mid-card guys, and Sami Zayn needs more opportunities, and all of that is on SmackDown. It just makes all the sense in the world to me, and I wish that was the stipulation.
That'd be really nice. I'm wondering how
they need
far...
to pin the titles down, except for the Cruiserweight, because they need to move that for obvious reasons. But it should be, if you win it, you go to the show, as opposed to the opposite after the Cruiserweight title.
I'm just sitting here thinking how far they're thinking into next year's draft. I know we're still a ways off, but with this, it's not that the SmackDown roster feels empty. It's that, once again, almost like Raw, I think WWE is afraid to do one storyline for a long period of time. I mean, they did it during the Attitude Era with guys like Taker and Stone Cold.
I mean,
it's
they're
not
drawing out Dean versus AJ, but I think it's out of necessity as one thing. But you bring up like the draft again happening, next summer or whatever, and they pretty much have to do that with SmackDown, I think, because after a year, they're going to run out of options, and they're going to have to kind of reshuffle the deck a bit just to keep feuds fresh. That is kind of the one true problem of SmackDown, is that they run out of options way too quickly.
And maybe even going back a little bit more about the Cruiserweights, if they do switch, which they will, you can have a lot of guys doing nothing as well. We're talking Apollo Crews, and the list goes on and on. Guys that maybe aren't exactly 205, but Sin Cara is not 205 pounds. For crying out loud, the guy is not 205, probably. And he's getting some anger management classes, because he's getting himself into some trouble somewhere along the road with Jericho and too many guys there. But maybe the Cruiserweight division can sort of help fill that gap, but then it even goes back to the question, why do you have 205 Live if you're using the Cruiserweights to fill out a portion of the shorter show of the two? I can easily have a longer conversation about this, and we're not going to get clarification, sadly, right?
Not for now, at least.
I actually just saw something really cool. Got this on Twitter. I'm going to credit the account The Fray Movement. The SmackDown Live was the highest rated program on cable last night that wasn't news or election related. It was number 29 in the ratings. Everything else above it, all 28, was election related. How surprised are you about that?
Wrestling fans are dedicated. And you know what? The time slot of SmackDown, things hadn't quite, the picture hadn't been painted yet of who was going to win. It was still very much up in the air during SmackDown's broadcast. So I don't think it really hurt them too much. I was kind of just, during commercials, I'd flip over to news channels just to see what was going on. And it didn't really get interesting until, closer to like 11, 12. I was up way too late last night. So I think that's why SmackDown didn't really suffer. I mean, wrestling fans are in a big habit, and it wasn't like things had gone down for real yet, you know?
And one thing I want to comment here is that I honestly expected SmackDown to suck because of the elections. I thought that Raw sort of suffered that fate a little bit, but I was thinking, man, like today, like people are just going to be flipping. So are they even going to have a solid show?
And it did pretty good.
Yeah. You have two reasons as to why SmackDown shouldn't be good, but it was. So
people actually want to watch.
Yeah. Like, yeah, we're not loving some of the decisions that are happening, but in the grand scheme of things, I still greatly enjoy SmackDown while I still get highly concerned about Raw. I'm willing to have that trade-off happen there. Now, I got a problem here, Ryan.
What's that?
This is where usually I say some stuff about questions and I take it over to Keith. So are you willing to take the Keith role once I do that?
I will. I'll become a role player this week and I will play Keith.
You got to read it as Keith, though. Because people are going to be disappointed.
I'll do my best. I'll give it the good old college try. How about that?
Okay, no pressure, but people rate Ryan on his Keith impersonation.
1 to 4 scale, please.
Yes, we got to keep the
bandit scale in there. Got to keep kayfabe strong, all right?
But remember, gang, keep the questions coming. ByteThatCast@gmail.com. It's the best way to send a longer question. Let us know where you're from. Tell us your life story. You can send them on Twitter, ByteThatCast, with the hashtag AskBT, or on YouTube. Simply drop a comment. The best way is to wait on the very same day that we record, simply because now that we cover everything, things tend to change. We also get some comments on Facebook and all that, so pretty much anywhere that we're at, just hang out with us a little bit.
Yep. All right, so our first question comes from Talking Benson. He asks, question for the podcast. Survivor Series is just some weeks away and brand wars between Raw versus SmackDown is going to happen there. Now my question, what kind of... Wait, what? All right, see, I'm already role-playing Keith by messing up. What kind of prize should be awarded to the winning brand? I guess there should be more than just an irrelevant cup, like they used with bragging rights. Greetings from Germany and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Germany. Got a couple fans there.
So an award is something we definitely talked about before that they haven't said a damn thing about. So I'm thinking it's probably either going to be nothing or a trophy that means nothing. I'm a little disappointed by that. I've brought up before, they should have done something with, the winner of it, the Royal Rumbles for that championship, or the winner of it gets the last match at WrestleMania for the title or whatever. Some sort of consequence, kind of like the All-Star game for Major League Baseball. They should have just done something like that. Some sort of consequence, not just a dumb trophy that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, even in as far as, say, SmackDown wins, SmackDown gets to have a SmackDown match on the next Raw pay-per-view or vice versa. Like, actually develop some rivalry that will piss the opposite brand. Like, I'm going to take time from your show by having one of my matches take place there. It would only happen once a year, right? Because it's not like it would be a monthly thing. Another thing would possibly be, and this wouldn't happen because it's too far out, have the winning team have the first vote for the next draft, or even something related to WrestleMania. Just not a trophy. Trophies are stupid for this. Baron Corbin had a trophy.
Yeah, and look what that got him. With it.
Yeah, he's out of a match. So, not the best thing there.
So, thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Daniel F. Which WWE Hall of Famer would you like to see winning the next presidential election in 2020?
How insane is that, right? Without going into too much detail, we have a WWE Hall of Famer as the president of the United States.
I totally forgot to mention that he is the only U.S. president to get a Stone Cold Stunner. Yeah, that's a thing. All right, it's Hall of Famers. So who do you think would actually be fit to be president who is in the WWE Hall of Fame?
Are we talking actually prepared?
Okay, who would be the most fun? Who would be the most fun?
Iron Sheik, no questions asked.
Oh my god!
Could you imagine? Oh my! Okay,
I don't even know if he was born in the U.S. and that
who cares?
That might save us from the wrath of the Iron Sheik.
Who cares? I would just have like bullshit. The election. Brian Blair.
Yeah,
everything ends up being about Brian Blair.
Yeah, it's funny because the people that probably would be most fit, even though they'd be pretty controversial, Jesse Ventura's in the Hall of Fame, right? Is he?
Yes.
Maybe he is. So he was actually governor of Minnesota and gets into politics and all that. He's very kind of conspiracy theory heavy, so that might be a lot of questionable stuff for some people. And then you got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who wasn't born in the U.S., but was governor of California, so he's got some political background. So those, I guess, are like, if you were going to go the more serious route there. Sting, man.
I got 2 picks.
Sting would be cool if he kept the face paint.
Just woo for everything. And then Flair as his vice president.
Ric Flair.
God.
That would be the most fun, man.
Everybody gets forced to knee drop everything. Like, instead of signing off on things, you knee drop the piece of paper.
Yeah, he gets in the Oval Office, throws down his jacket, elbow drops it.
2 more picks. One would be Bob Backlund, because Bob Backlund. The other one, Ron Simmons. For everything he gets asked, his answer is, dang.
Ron, Backlund's entire platform is to make Darren Young great again. That's it.
Oh my God. I would love a hypothetical scenario. The next season of WWE Camp should be about this. It won't, but it should be.
Well, thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Collector number 9000. What is the worst WWE joke you ever heard?
Probably anything that comes out of my mouth during the podcast.
Yeah.
What? Come on. I thought you were good. Oh, I am pretty bad. I'm terrible at jokes.
WWE jokes. See, the thing is, I don't know one off the top of my head. So you guys should just send us tweets of your WWE jokes at Byte That Cast. The best WWE jokes, the worst ones. And we'll judge them. And you know what? Next week, we'll tell you the best and the worst one if you send some in. So let's get the Byte Club involved in this one.
Meanwhile, I am doing some searches here. I'm doing just WWE jokes on Google. I'm curious. What are the best results? Okay,
is it the Cruiserweight division?
Maybe. I'm just gonna let out 3 of them. Okay, ready? What did John Cena say to his English teacher after he got a C?
You can't see me, man. That's rough. That's rough.
It's bad. Okay. See here. Why did Mr. McMahon cross the road?
I don't know.
This is bad. Oh my God. Because Stone Cold Steve Austin was coming.
What?
How is that even a joke?
Wouldn't it be because Stone Cold said so?
Okay, here's the last one. How many Vince McMahons does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many?
None. Light bulb. Screwed light bulb.
Okay, that one is amazing. Okay, that one's brilliant. We could end it on a high note on that one.
Yeah, let's just keep it at that one. The rest are terrible.
So thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Sam H. Can you guys design a new title, please? Could be revival of an old one or something like the Puppy Champion.
Well, the Puppy Champion, I still advocate for that. We should have a Puppy division. I still think I would be the best Raw GM because of that. Okay, so let's say that, let's make it a little bit more challenging. We get rid of all mid-card championships. There are none.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do to fill the gap in there? You have tag team, you have world, you have woman. That's it. How would you make the mid-card title different?
It's so tough because really, if you're not going by weight class and match type, there's not, because all I can think of is the hardcore title, which I was a big fan of, but I don't think it's going to be that successful in today's WWE. I think it would get very old because of the limitations of what they want to do. And plus, you kind of... The hardcore title, for as fun as it was, kind of devalues all other... Like, it devalues when you do other street fights for other matches, kind of like the Hell in a Cell kind of gets watered down because of the pay-per-view that it is every year. So it's like super difficult because there's nothing I think that's actually a better option. You know, I know there's like 6-man tag championships and stuff like that, but I don't really think that's a good option either.
Yeah, it's tough because you can go something
you can't
similar
do like
to the hardcore
match
with like the
title,
network
right?
championship. Yeah.
And then you just have a ladder match every week. Or
what
a
about
cage
just like
match
the count out championship? The count out championship.
Last man standing championship.
I could go for that. What about the schoolboy championship?
You can only
That'd
win
be perfect.
Are we talking schoolboy roll up, or are we having children fight each other now?
No, that's for another show. Get Chris' answer for that one. But for this, I would say the roll-on championship. I would bring in, here we go. Yeah, it is a championship where you can only pin with roll-ups. Any variation. You can hit a finisher beforehand, but you got to finish with a roll-up.
You know what? I got a better option. How about the submission championship? So
there you go.
It's like the technician's title where it's all about submissions. And you even maybe have a women's version of this submission championship, and you make its own division, and you call it the submission sorority. Oh, wait.
Ooh.
Anyway.
And you have Bret Hart complain about every match for them not working on the legs.
Yep. But yeah, I think that would be the best option. In the title design, armbar. You just have a design of an armbar.
So, best question, best answer, man. Move on. That's it.
Thank you for the question. Our next question comes from Santa or Tanner. It's TMK Tanner.
Hey.
Oh man, this is ill-timed. This is ill-timed.
You gotta ask it.
All right. I gotta role play pretty hard here. How is it over in Canada? I'm looking for a new house.
I mean, I couldn't tell you, Tanner, because I'm in Puerto Rico, but we got Keith here temporarily. So, Keith, how is it over in Canada right now?
It's pretty great. You know, I gotta say, it's pretty good. Canada's good. You gotta come to Winnipeg, because I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot. I don't know, that is horrible. But you know what? Wow. I feel like... Yeah, I should have been like, I'm from... It's about time you come over here.
What about that Canadian bacon?
No, I
Keith,
swear, though, there was another time where someone specifically asked a question to you and you weren't on the show. And now when we get one specifically targeted towards Keith, he isn't here. But we'll be sure to ask him.
Feels bad, man.
Feels bad, man. So thank you for the question. Our final question comes from Promo Neil. Hey guys, there are many ways WWE themes where wrestlers say their catchphrase at the beginning of their themes, like the Hurricane, Stand Back, there's a hurricane coming through, or Braun Strowman's Roar. What is your favorite phrase at the beginning of a theme? It's a good question.
Now, I did a little homework because you know I love me some wrestling themes. Now, I didn't list off all of them, but just for a reference, here's a couple that I think should be in this list, and then maybe we just pick out the best one. Mm-hmm. You got the New Age Outlaws. Oh, you didn't know? You better call somebody. Let's do the PG version. DX with Are You Ready? The Rock with If You Smell. The Hurricane, he just brought it up. Edge with You Think You Know Me. The Shield kind of counts. I would say the Shield counts. Viscera with the world's largest machine. God. Viscera. Randy Orton, would he count with the...
No, because it's also, he's saying like where they themselves say it, which even Edge didn't really say that, but it was still like a trademark thing.
Yeah. Al Snow, what does everybody want? I think that's great. The Godfather, he's got to be in there.
Yep.
Vader, it's time. That's probably...
That's a great one.
Right there. That should be maybe the the pick, but let me just finish the list. Almost done. The Miz with Awesome. Mm-hmm. The Legion of Doom. That's another one. I think that's a high contender.
Very classic one.
Booker T. Can you dig it, sucker? Wow, that just sounds weird when I just say it like that.
Yeah. Can you dig it, sucker? Do I just say that to a normal person?
I dare you to. I really dare you to. Just two more. Dusty Rhodes with American Dream. I put that there. That maybe not count, but I mean that's his nickname, and that's like unanimous with him.
I mean,
Well, if it's not pre-recorded, it's always live. Does that count? Well, no, with New Age Outlaws. And the last one, Mr. McMahon. His whole theme song is basically his catchphrase, if you think about it.
Yeah, but he does. It's not like the quote at the beginning. You also can't forget about Gene Snitsky. It wasn't my fault, right?
Right. So that's all I wrote. So you added Snitsky.
Damn, there was one on there that you said that I was like, that is probably my favorite, and I already forgot what it was.
Okay, New Age Outlaws, DX, The Rock, Hurricane, Edge, Shield, Viscera, Randy Orton, Al Snow, Vader, Godfather, The Miz, Legion of Doom, Booker T, Dusty Rhodes, Mr. McMahon.
All right, after going through that again, I'm actually going to say probably The Rock and Booker T are my favorites. Just for, I don't know, that just... And I think Vader's is pretty awesome, too.
No, what a rush is very solid, even though it wasn't really part of my time watching wrestling. I think that was it, but I'm going to have to go with The Rock, just because whenever you heard that, The Rock was the man around that time, right? So you cap that off.
It's going down.
And he did different variations of it, because he did, If You Smell What The Rock Is Cooking.
He had the Do You Smell,
Yeah, he did like 3 to 4 different variations of it, so it evolved over time. So I think that's got to be the pick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as most iconic, it's probably Legion of Doom and The Rock. For just the, that big intro. Got people pumped.
Why haven't we gotten the Vader It's Time as part of a ringtone or as a wake-up thing? It feels like it's perfect for it. Like, it's time, it's wake the hell up, get to work time. We just dubbed that part.
I don't know. They had the rock clock. Do you remember that? And Keith.
Oh my god.
Keith had a personal vendetta against it. It made him like late for work or something.
Right.
Yeah.
He had a full rant about it.
Yeah. So the rock clock, man. I don't know if they've had some updates since then where they fixed it, but the Rock was making some people late. That ain't cool. So if you're gonna set your rock clock, make sure to have some backup alarms. That's a PSA. That's just for free. Purpose. I'm just giving out free PSAs. No payment necessary.
Well, Keith, you did an excellent job reading the questions. I'm going to give you a solid 2 out of 4. You did a good job, Keith.
Thank you. Okay, I didn't realize I was still role playing at that point.
Yeah, no, you did a terrible job.
Normally the role playing's for Byte That After Dark, but we made a personal exception this week.
We got to save that. Keep people guessing there, but. Yeah, thank you guys for the really fun questions. The last one there, I can talk about themes all day, so keep those type of questions coming, just sort of figuring out, what ifs or what is the favorite. We do have the roundtables about that too. You can check those out on the YouTube channel. Remember, for those that do pledge on Patreon, if we reach $100, which is the goal there, we're going to launch a second podcast feed for you audio listeners on the road, and those roundtables are all going to be accessible to you. So you get more of us. You get more. Because more is more, according to Dana Bryan, making fun of Raw. But not about us. More is actually good here. Yeah. I would hope so, Ryan.
On-demand content anytime you want to listen to it. And we don't keep you for 3 hours. So there's a plus. So we want to thank you guys for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. We've done 168 of these. Wow. That's a lot. So
200 coming up.
Yeah, you can't forget about the BT Crate. If you want to win some sick DVDs, a Brie Bella Funko Pop, tons of other stuff, head over to ByteThat.com and you can see that there are a ton of ways that you can earn points as for entries into this giveaway. If you want to contact us anyway, social media, you can reach us at Byte That Cast. You want to send us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. Questions for the show, things like that. You can always email, Twitter, leave a comment on the most recent podcast to do so. And as Juan mentioned, if you want to go the extra mile in supporting us, head on over to patreon.com/ByteThat. For as little as $1, you can get cool things like the raw and uncut video version of the podcast that's available to
For
patrons.
just $1.
Just
not
$1.
a young buck, just $1.
Other sweet things like shoutouts and tons of cool stuff and awesome goals when we reach them. So thank you guys for listening to another edition of the show, and we will see you next week.
Later.